Hi everybody. I hope you are doing absolutely amazing today. And once again, it's a very, it's another very cold day. I hope you are keeping warm and everything is going awesome. My name is Soleni PC. I am one of the co-founders of Saray Training Academy, and as you guys all know, that every now and then we bring along all these awesome people whom Saray Training Academy wouldn't exist without. Some people would like to call them your professional power team. And this week we have another expect for you guys. We have attorneys to be a bit more specific. So if you have any, you've been worried or thinking about having an attorney on your professional power team and you've been wondering who exactly can you talk to, whom you can trust, then this might be for you. And of course, if you have some questions, then of course this is for you. So I would like to quickly, without taking too much time, I would like to quickly introduce you to Claire and Patega. I'm just going to give them, opportunities one by one to kind of introduce themselves so that you guys can get to know them as well. I need to say, if you do have any questions, you guys, please feel free to drop them on the comment section and we'll do the best that we can to go through all of those questions. And if there are any questions that somehow we do miss, we're gonna of course have to invite Pateka and Claire back so that they can be able to assist you guys. All right, so let's start with Pateka. Pateka, please say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today.
Claire, hi.
Hey, how are you?
I am good. I'm good. I hope you are doing awesome yourself.
Yeah, like we said, a bit chilly, but we're good. We're happy.
Absolutely. So you guys, I know we try by all means to keep these sessions at least your 30 minutes to make sure that you guys get exactly what you need, like the questions or whatever dealt with, and you can be able to go on your way. Okay. So try to make this as short as possible. So I would like to just introduce the ladies a bit more. So as I told you that Patega and Claire, they are attorneys. I would like for them to explain to you what kind of attorneys are they, and of course how they can be able to assist you. So, Claire, would you like to start? Basically, tell everybody what is it that you do and how can you be able to assist them.
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Claire Laurent. I'm a senior associate and the legal manager at SSLR Incorporated. We're a boutique law firm specializing in property law. Particularly myself, I've been dealing with mostly residential evictions since I started at the firm in 2015. So I specialize in the litigation side of property, evictions, and then rental law, rental disputes.
Okay, awesome. Patega, can you please tell us about yourself?
Thank you so much. My name is Pateka Malipale. I am the Senior Associate at SSR Incorporated. I head the Department of Conveyancing and Real Estate. So we basically help those who want to venture into property investing. So we we do conveyancing, whether it's conveyancing through the normal sales or through estates or through insolvency. So we do assist everyone who's an aspiring a property investor, especially because they are still navigating their way through in terms
Mhm.
of property investing. So we have quite a lot of experience in doing some seminars, also in terms of empowering those who are aspiring to be property investors.
Absolutely. Okay, so you guys, I'm just gonna quickly go through so what we did, it's basically go on social media, kindly ask you guys to share your questions in relation to everything legalities, of course, as property investors and aspiring property investors. A lot of you shared with us a few questions which we would like, of course, to start with at the end. But the purpose of this was not mainly, of course, to deal with those questions first, but it was basically to introduce you to Patega and Claire. Um, so I'm just going to quickly go through this to make sure that every question has been noted. Okay. Right. So I guess Another thing that I wanted to ask you ladies is basically how can anybody contact you? Because I think before we even dive in and speak about whatever or respond to any questions, some people along the lines would like to figure out how can I call Patega or Claire to be able to inquire further about, conveyancing or inquire further about your rental related disputes or anything like that. So how can anybody reach out to you?
I think, yeah, so we do have a website, www.sslr.co.za. That probably will be your first point of contact in to the particular department that you're looking for. But I don't know, perhaps, Felini, we share a link to that in the
Yes.
comments. All
Okay.
right.
So people should go straight to the website and basically they are gonna find all your contact details there, right?
Sure. Yeah.
There is a contact form there, so anyone can just complete that form, and then it will pull through to someone who does with our inquiries, and then we will get all those inquiries through that.
Okay, perfect. All understood. Okay, so you guys had it. You heard that from the ladies. I'm just gonna also, as I said, drop the link on the comment section below, so that you can be able to, be able to reach out to them specifically. Okay, so without taking too much time, I want to get straight to the question because I feel like we're gonna be able to get to know you a bit more based on these questions that everybody has compiled. Let me just go straight to the question. Okay, so the first question, we have a few questions here, hey? Okay, so
Yes.
the first question, it has a little intro. So the first question is properties. I'm not sure if you ladies can see this. Okay, okay.
Yeah, we actually printed the questions.
Got them
Okay,
in front of us. Yeah.
perfect. All right. Okay. Okay, so the first question, for everybody out there, it reads properties that are in the newspapers, like those that are in the classified section, say the property of XYZ is for sale or deceased or whatever. If there is anyone claiming to be owed by that property, please contact us or something like that. Quote and unquote, by the way. And then the first question based on that little paragraph is what happens for a property to land there instead of being auctioned? So I'm
I
not
think
sure
we
who's.
can.
Mm,
I think we can consolidate point one and two,
Mm.
mm,
because it's basically the same question. Because the second part says how come some properties are in the classified section and some are auctions, or do they go to the newspaper before being auctioned? So I'll
mm,
allow Claire to kind of touch base on that part if.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, looking at a newspaper, I mean, classified sections. I think nowadays we don't see too many listings in terms of immovable property. But I mean, there will be under the legal ads will definitely be like a sale and execution. So that's a sheriff's auction sale,
mhm,
deceased estates. Now, a lot of those things, um, those notices that you see, are not necessarily related to the property, which is potentially up for sale. A lot of the time, it's you know required in terms of legislation to actually do those notices before we can even
mm,
get to a point where we can sell the property. So, for instance, when they say someone is claiming to be owed by that property, usually that would be a notice to creditors when you're dealing with a liquidation or a
mm,
sequestration. So usually, uh, anything that appears, definitely if there's an auction, and it's a court ordered auction, there will have to be notices, and that's all legislated. Um, yeah.
okay.
Yes, and also yeah, and also just to add on that, what Claire has just mentioned now, the adverts that are there, as Claire mentioned, they are legislated. So whatever advert there, it doesn't necessarily mention they are actually put it out as being a property being sold, unless if someone is putting a property for sale just to get some leads in terms of his real estate business. But other than that, those legislated adverts, those adverts are there for a purpose that is for liquidation or for sheriff or For example, if you look at deceased, because I see she mentioned deceased as well, the deceased
Mm-hmm.
estate adverts are not for properties. There are two adverts. One is for creditors, and also the second one is for liquidation accounts. So it doesn't specifically mention a property or calling upon. If a person is being called upon, if he's being owed, it's when we advertise an LND account. Because when we advertise an LND account, that account, it lies for inspection, because it does say that it's lying for inspection way, then you need to go and view that at the magistrate office. So that's the only thing I would think about. Other than that, I don't think the classified can kind of like say come forward if you are being owed on this property.
Yeah.
Okay, noted. Okay, so the following question, let me just make sure that my connection is still stable. We are in load shedding. Okay, good. All
No
right,
worries.
so the next question. The next question is, if we as investors take that property and back to back sell it, would it still be a legal sale? So this is still in relation to the paragraph.
Mm. I think it boils back to what we have just mentioned, because the first thing that we need to determine is why is the advert there. So again, who puts the advert there? So as a property investor, the due diligence is one of the most important things that you have to do. Hence, when you were mentioning earlier, you were talking about a power team. So as a property investor, then if you would want to do a back-to-back transfer, you have to make sure that you have verified the ownership of that property first before you decide that I can be able to resell it. So it's part of your due diligence then to make sure that the ownership has been verified, and also is it possible for you to do a back-to-back sale.
Okay, okay. Understood. Okay, so I just want to make sure that my connection is stable now, you ladies. And everybody else can hear me. I have something that tells me if the connection dives. And it's telling me that it's diving. Can you ladies still hear me properly though?
Yes.
We can hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay. So notice to everybody, you are definitely going to be hearing the sounds, but currently I think we're having some technical issues. You may not be able to see my face properly. Okay. So, but I've noticed that the sound, we're making sure that the sound is still going through for you to be able to hear everything. Okay. Um, so the other question is, sometimes in the classified, okay, this is a lot of questions. It's a lot of questions based on this. Sometimes in the classified pages also, they say a hospital is going to be built. If anyone has an objection, come forward, blah blah blah. This is quote and unquote, by the way. Do people object, and does it happen that these objections cause problems for the developers?
Um, yeah. So again, I think it goes back to if there's a notice or an uh, yeah, I suppose we can't call it an advert. A notice calling upon people to object to something. It's usually done in terms of a municipal bylaw, even in terms of certain environmental laws, where if a developer is looking to develop and remember each uh, municipality has its own municipal bylaws. So then it goes back to what is required of that developer. Um, and so often it would be calling upon people to object and making sure that they've done the required adverts in order to be in a position where they get the go ahead, the green light to do the development. Other times, if you think of just you in a residential setting, you might it might be something where people want to build a school next door, or student type accommodation. That would all yes. So people should and can exercise their right to object. Um, again, I think it comes down to due diligence of that particular
Sure.
developer. I mean,
Yeah.
investor.
Yeah, the fact that before you pick an area, you have to be aware of what's going to happen in the next 10 years or 15 years. basically have the relationships with your town planners and everybody who has access basically to all that kind of information.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the following question is in relation to Pluma. So I've been speaking to some individuals, some property investors, and they have been worried about Spluma, actually, not Pluma. My correction there. So let me just read this question. Please help us understand Spluma, especially in relation to these people who build without approvals and later want to sell, or buyers wanting to buy. So I think this one is going to be very interesting to our current property investors, especially the ones who just when go out. Please help us understand. Basically, every property investor out there who's seeing this, please help them understand Spluma and their dangers, and yeah.
Yeah, I think your connection is a bit unstable.
Okay, so technical
You're back.
difficulties there.
You're back.
Welcome to South Africa. Okay, so I had to change like what is it, Wi-Fi routers and whatnot. So I think we're stable now. Finally. All right. So let me go back to the question. The question was in relation to Spluma. It was basically, it reads, please help us understand Spluma, especially in relation to these people who build without approvals and later want to sell, or buyers wanting to buy. So I think this one is going to be helpful to a lot of property investors out there.
Mm. I think the first thing that I want to mention, as we mentioned earlier, in any case as well, is that as property investors, we just have to make sure that we do our own due diligence. So, as assisting those aspiring property investors, we usually there's quite a lot of a request to draft exit clauses, as they call them, and those
Mm,
exit clauses, part of that is the approved plans. So the most important thing for property investors when it comes to Spluma, they just have to make sure that the buildings as well as the boundaries, they are actually done accordingly. So meaning the compliance in terms of the municipal bylaws. So that is what is important, so that you don't buy something in which the municipality can come back and say, hey, can you please amend or demolish or whatever.
mm.
So it
Okay,
is
can
important that
we?
in
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm thinking, can we please go back a little bit for the others? What is Spluma? Because I think somebody out there is wondering, what is Spluma now? All these new things in property investing.
So Spluma came into effect from October 2020. Ne? So
Mm,
in terms of the Spluma, it is Spatial Planning and Land Use Management Act. So
mm,
in terms of this act, then it has to make sure each and every building in South Africa has to comply when it comes to boundary lines. It has to comply when it comes to building the building lines and the boundaries. So
mm-hmm,
Spluma is regulating it so that no one is encroaching. So the most
mm,
important thing is that when you buy, because I remember there's a matter that we dealt with last month, where
mm,
someone built a boundary wall, and in terms of that boundary wall,
mm,
it encroached. Remember, in terms of the bylaws, that is why when Spluma came into effect, the municipalities were then requested to amend their bylaws, because the most important thing is to comply with the bylaws of the municipality. So it is there to regulate the buildings. So meaning whatever building that anyone has to erect, especially if we're talking about development. So we just have to make sure that everything is built accordingly in terms of the municipal bylaws. So that's what
mm,
Spluma is all about. So the most important thing then is for us as property investors to make sure that we do request for an approved plan.
mm,
Um,
mm,
the, the the only deeds office at the time when it came up, Mpumalanga deeds office is the only deeds office that every transfer, every property transfer, whether through a private sale or whichever way,
Mhm.
you have to have a Spluma certificate. So in terms of the Pretoria and the Joburg and the other deeds offices, I haven't had a request for Spluma, but Mpumalanga is very strict. Part of
Yeah.
your lodgement document has to be a Spluma certificate from the municipality. And because I've done some few properties in Mpumalanga, the municipality actually goes there and inspects the buildings.
Yes,
So
I've
that's how
heard
serious it
that.
is. They go and
Because
inspect, and if they see that
mm,
there's something that has been built incorrectly, not according to the regulations, then they would request for that building to be demolished. So the
mm.
most important thing for us then as property investors is when you sign a deed of sale, please make sure you include a condition that an approved building plan must be in place.
And do not sign those deed of sales without an attorney who's guiding you through the process. If it means you have to
Yes,
send through your OTP to
they
SSLR for
don't.
them to go through the OTP, make sure that all the clauses are perfect and
Mm,
you are safe. You have to do that. It's worth it. It's either you ignore all that process, you go through, buy the property, and when you're trying to reset it, if you, for example, flipping, you're now stuck. You're unable to reset it and you have lost all the money which you have invested towards that property. So
mm,
this is something that needs to be kind of emphasized because, as you said, Patega, that's where I've kind of heard about it as well. A few colleagues of mine, property investors, they've been complaining that somewhere in Pumalanga it's really difficult to actually get a property. There've just been some setbacks because of this whole thing of unapproved plans and all that. So this is a
true.
warning to all
But they
property
do go out,
investors.
yeah. They do go out and inspect, and they will tell you. For example, my client had to demolish a certain building that she had, and it was not part of the plans. So it was not part of the approved plans, though. So she had to demolish before we can even lodge our documents at the deeds office for registration purposes.
Yikes.
And you'll
That
probably
must be
find that a lot
brutal.
of these officers will follow suit.
They will definitely, yeah, they will,
So it's something to already get, be the master of.
yeah. Mm.
Mm.
Uh,
Because the conversation we've been having with these investors is that regardless of where you're based, you can't say it's just in Pumalang. They're just being serious in Pumalang. They don't look at it that much in Gauteng or wherever, and then you relax. It's time for us to prepare that if it ever gets that serious in Gauteng, and you have
Mm.
properties in Gauteng, make sure that you're not on the wrong side of the law,
Mm.
basically.
Yes. Mm. Yes.
Okay, so that was an interesting question. The next question is in okay. So it reads, how do I handle the situation where a tenant dies or just leaves their belongings on the property?
yeah, so it actually, it happens more often than one would think. Um, and, tenant or landlord could pass away. And you think, what then happens to that relationship? What happens to the lease agreement? So the death of either party to a lease agreement will never um, terminate or have the effects of automatically terminating that lease agreement unless the parties specifically make that provision in the lease agreement. What
Mm,
happens is if a tenant passes, the lease will then vest in the deceased estate of that, and then usually someone will be appointed to administer that estate, and they then have the decision to continue with the lease or to cancel the lease. Sometimes you have it that there's still family members staying there, and it can be then that the estate pays the monthly rental. Um,
mm,
in the case of a tenant absconding from the property and leaves some property behind, especially dealing with evictions, we come across this a lot. So, and sometimes, it also depends on what kind of property. If we're talking
mm,
about a broken broom in the garage, maybe that person has actually left it to because they're discarding, they once discarded. If it's things like,
mm,
a fridge, a gas spray or something, rather err on the side of caution and contact us to do a letter. We do a letter specifically advising, well, you place them in, say, well, you've absconded, you're no longer in occupation of the property, and we've noted that you've left this behind. You're afforded X amount of days to collect this, failing which the landlord will dispose of the items as he deems fit, whether it be selling it. In a lot of cases, the landlord may already be out of pocket on rental. So,
Mm,
and that's actually something that the TPN lease has now. It's an update to the TPN lease that provides for the landlord that particular right. So it's important to make sure that your lease aligns with uh, these things that might occur. You never know.
mm. Mm. And I think honestly having access to TPN it's quite helpful to avoid some of these things, and obviously having access to an attorney to make sure that it's not just the draft from TPN and you use it as is. You also have all your related clauses and meant to protect you and make sure that if whatever it is happens you are on the safe side as well. So what I'm gonna do, you guys, on top of sharing the websites for SSLR so that you can be able to contact the ladies. I'm also going to just drop the link to be able to access TPN as well, because I've been having some requests from other investors saying, how can I make sure that how can I where can I get access to a proper
Mm,
lease agreement, and to who can I reach out to make sure that that lease which I'm making my tenant sign it's actually proper and is structured correctly. So I'm gonna share that
yeah.
that information with you guys on the comment section.
And so, Swalini, there's a wider conversation there as well because so SSLR we draft that residential lease, and every
Oh.
these updates all come from SSLR. So, a lot of times we'll get a query, "Hi, can you draft us a lease?" And we say, "Well, the perfect lease already exists. It's the
Mm,
TPN, and it's regularly updated, and
Updated.
to make sure that it's in line with." Um, Changing laws or new things that we think would be beneficial to the landlord. So it's all there. And I mean, what better way to get the best lease agreement than and I mean it's the most affordable way, and you've got access to all other types of um, materials. So if you need a deed of surety, if you need addendum, TPN's got it all.
yes, and I need to emphasize this to all investors that this thing of putting in people in your property without following the proper proper procedures, it's not a good idea, you guys. I don't know how many stories I've heard, people trying to hire the guy to
Oh
get them
yeah.
some tenants out of the property and change locks and remove people's properties from their house, trying to just get
Mhm.
rid of them. And let's just say today's tenants, they are very educated and they are smart. So to make sure that
Mm.
you do not find
Well,
yourself
no, there
in,
are.
yeah, they are very educated, this one. To protect yourself against all of that, just do it right, guys. In the first place, do it right. Have the right people on your corner to guide you through all of this. Do not take any shortcuts and try, because the one thing we property investors, the one mistake we make is that we try so hard to save money, like, I'm just gonna go on Google and search lease agreement South Africa, and then you take that and then you make somebody sign without even understanding what
Yeah.
exactly are you both signing.
True.
So to avoid all the drama, guys, please, TPN and the ladies are here to help you with the process as
Yes.
well.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so where are we? Okay, the next question: how to go about sellers removing stuff that is fixtures and finishes from the property before you occupy. Okay, so she made an example and said, for example, removing an expensive shower head you saw on the agent's pictures and during the viewing, but when you actually occupy the property, the shower head is no longer there, basically. So that's my understanding of the question. So,
Yes.
what do you ladies think of this question?
I think this question as well goes back to us property investors doing our own due diligence. In most of our deed of sale, there is a clause there that is talking about fixtures and fittings. And when it makes a mention of a fixture or fitting, it talks about a fixture or fitting of a permanent nature.
Mm,
And then it goes further and then it says that including but not limited.
mm,
Then that's where you list it. all of those things that you want to list, your power, your pool pumps, your whatnot and whatnot, your stove, your curtain rails, your whatnot. So it then lists them there. So
Mm,
if, for example, part of those ones that are included or added, then the shower head is one of them. It cannot be removed because if the contract specifically says that the shower head must be there, it must
mm,
be there. So the seller cannot just decide to remove it.
mm.
So I
So,
think the most important here is to understand which one is a fixture of a permanent nature and which one is not. Because the shower head, I would say that is not of a permanent nature, but then again, was it supposed to be removed? It's the same thing as when you buy a property usually, because I remember we had a seminar webinar about a stove, because a lot of people think that why would I leave my stove? So a stove is being regarded as a permanent fixture, because the presumption is that how do you go in there and then there's no stove? So it's a thing of it should be there. So
mm,
again, the most important thing is in terms of the contract or the deed of sale that you're signing, please make sure that whatever it is that you have seen, obviously you will ask whether this shower head will be here or whatever, that you feel that maybe the owner of the seller of the property might remove it, then you must list it in the
mm,
deed of sale. Because I've seen a lot of other things that are being listed because a person doesn't want that to be changed. For example, we had an issue about a microwave. So apparently the microwave was part of the deed of sale, and then the owner removed it because it's expensive, and then the agent decided to buy another one and replace it. But then
mm,
now the purchaser is like, no, it's not the one that I saw, and apparently the one that she saw was expensive and was a certain brand. So
mm.
yeah, it became an issue.
So
It
I
became an issue,
guess.
and unfortunately, the seller was not made aware. It was only there, and I guess it never read the contract properly
Mm,
to see that the microwave has to be left there. But then the agent, because the agent felt like I'm the one at fault, and then the agent decided, you know what, let me just go to game, let me buy microwave, and then the
mm.
purchaser was like, that one had a specific feature. So it becomes a problem really. But
Mm,
again, it goes back to us making sure that agreement, we read it properly. That is why we always emphasize every property investor to have a party, and make sure that before you sign that deed of sale, you run it through your own attorney.
mm. Exactly, exactly. Because imagine this, you sign an OTP for a property which you're gonna Airbnb in Centon. There's all this nice furniture, then when you come back, it's been replaced by, I don't know, your
So,
your some house, your some furniture shop from your class somewhere, and all the nice furniture is gone, and your OTP did not actually specify. So
mhm.
as I said,
Yeah,
get that professional power team, not cut corners. It's rough out here.
you'll be surprised. I mean, Patek and I've had we won't obviously not mention names, but we've had an instance where a seller actually removed built-in cupboards, and you think the word built-in
Would you?
implies it's a permanent fixture. Yeah. And then I
Thanks
think
for reminding me.
I think then so that's the first step. You obviously can't prevent a seller. I mean, the fact that a seller is going to now breach the sale agreement then makes it a contractual dispute, and then we would have to do a legal letter to demand that either that is
Mm.
uh, back, or that they furnish pay for it basically. So that would be the recourse.
And I'm hearing like so many different stories. This is a new one now. Somebody removing cardboards. It's
Yeah.
definitely new. Okay. So I think we are past 30 minutes already. Let me see how many questions do we have left. We can't go through all these questions, you guys. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we may need to kind of have another session, or I don't know, a quick video or something where we help you with all the other questions. Um But basically, I'm just gonna take one more questions, and then we can let you, like, let all of you guys go. So the one last question is, it reads, what are the legal red flags when buying an RDP? Now, this is interesting because I have a lot of people who are interested in your Kasi properties, especially starting out investors. They like your back rooms and all of that. So this is interesting. What are the legal red flags when buying an RDP? What is the related legal process? Okay, this sounds like a question that's going to require a complex answer. I don't know. How do one go about evicting family members of the owner? Okay, this one is a separate question now. Let's just start with the first one. What are the
Yeah.
legal what are the legal red flags when buying an RDP, and what is the related legal process?
I think, as you just mentioned, a lot of property investors would really, they are actually now starting to look into our township properties. And one of the red flags with RTPs is the title deed,
Mm,
because most of them will find that their title deeds are not yet issued.
Mm.
What we must all remember is that when government approves a person to receive an RTP house, is because they have gone through a certain criteria.
mm,
And in terms of that criteria, then they qualify to get an RDP house. So that is why an RDP house, you can't just sell it. And then that is why there is a condition in the title deed that you have to own that house for a specific period before you
mm,
decide to sign it. So on occupation, then, sorry, not on occupation first, on approval, you are then given a letter of occupation by
mm,
government.
mm,
That is why you will find that they occupy before the title deeds are issued. So
mm,
now that whole process takes time then, because the most important thing for government as well is they try to remove the responsibility from their side in terms of illegal occupants. Then they will allow you to go and occupy before you become the owner.
mm,
So then the most important thing is just to make sure that there is a title deed that has been issued to that person, because they can't sell a property if there's no title deed in place, because that confirms their ownership. So that land, if there's no title deed, is still owned by government together with the building that has been erected there. So
mm,
that's the first thing. The title deed must be in place. Then again, if the title deed, because as you were saying that this is, yeah, it's going to be a whole seminar on its own, because
mm,
if a title deed, for example, is issued to me, and I'm not at the time when that title deed is issued, I'm no more. Then government, what they do, they check my children to see if my children, they qualify in terms of their criteria, so that then the title deed cannot be issued to me as a deceased person, can be issued to my child who qualifies to have an
mm,
RTP.
mm,
So it's a process in which everyone should understand that the very first thing you check is whether a title deed is issued. Now, let's say that the title deed then is issued to me and I'm still alive. Then, if I want to sell, we need to check as property investors that there's no condition that restricts us from selling.
mm, mm,
That is on that title, that condition. Okay. Then let's say now the title deed is issued and I'm no more. And now my children, they don't want to stay there. They want to stay somewhere else, and now they want to sell. So now again, another red flag is that child who wants to sell my property while I'm deceased, authorized to sell the property. So meaning now we're moving from making sure the title deed is issued, we're moving now from making sure that there's no condition that restricts you from selling. We're now moving to whether this person who's now signing the deed of sale, is that person authorized to sign the deed of sale.
mm,
Because a lot of them, I've rejected a lot of them, where a person is saying, no, it's my property because my mother has passed on. But then
mm.
my first question is, how many are you?
Oh,
Because you can't just feel that you are entitled as a child because I'm the firstborn at home. I am entitled to sell. No. How many are you? Because the purpose of reporting an estate is to determine the beneficiaries. So
mm,
now, in determining the beneficiaries, one of the forms that they have to sign is to declare how many children belong to the deceased.
Mm, mm,
And also, we can't say the children are the children because let's say Patega is married, or maybe Patega is a guy is married, he was married. And now, when we talk about children, we talk about the children in the marriage, we're talking
mm.
about the children outside
Outside
the
the
marriage.
marriage.
So it's really a very, yes, hence I was saying it's a topic on its own because there's a lot that is happening, especially around the deceased person, and now especially around the RDP houses, because a lot of people they would see that what, that's actually very cheap for me to start my property investment journey.
Mm,
So yes, you can if everything is in order. So there's nothing that says a person cannot sell an RDP house if the person can. But you
mm,
just have to make sure that you do your own due diligence there to make sure that that person really has the authority to sell. And again, you make sure that you have verified ownership of
mm,
that property.
mm. Okay, you guys. So due to time, that will be our last question. We're just gonna keep you updated on our socials if we're gonna have another session anytime soon, so that we're able to go through the questions on that list and the questions, of course, on the comment section. What I am gonna do so that you're able to keep up with the conversation, I'm just gonna copy the questions from our document and paste them on the comment section so you know exactly what is it that we've been talking about. Okay, so another thing I wanted to emphasize to all property investors is that first step, get yourself educated because you can't go out there and do something you don't know. You know, you're gonna be losing a lot of money. I can talk to you about a whole other stories from other property investors who have lost a lot of money because they try to avoid the part about being educated. As a training, we offer several training courses that can be able to assist you, with your property investing journey, to make sure that you start from, you start correctly. And the second thing after getting educated is the right people around you. I cannot emphasize this enough. You need the right people around you, and along, as part of that list, it is your attorneys. Hence, we are here today and we have Claire and Patega to basically, introduce themselves to you and tell you that they are here for you, if you have or you need basically any legal related support. Remember, their details, they're going to be on the comment section below. You can be able to go through that website of theirs, and you basically follow the steps right there to be able to connect to them. We're going to be coming back with other, of course, experts, all meant to support you on your property investing journey. But for today, this is it. Thank you so much, guys, for being with us. Patega and Claire, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you so much. And personally, I'm working with you ladies, so me and you, we're gonna continue to communicate on the other side, because as everybody know, I'm a sourcing agent, and that means I deal with a lot of OTPs, and there is no OTP that I sign without having to tell Patega, hey, I'm not sure about this one. She knows me. I said your OTP is in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. in the morning, stuck. That, hey, I don't know what this means, and I'm freaking out about it, and she would help me. And they've been quite supportive. That's why I personally as well recommend them. They're gonna take really good care of you. Okay, so thank you, ladies, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having
It was
us.
awesome.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody. You have a wonderful, wonderful one.
Bye.